episode 14 of my ultra running vlog as I'm racing 100-mile ultra marathon on average every month for the third year in a row. The past few weeks have been quite a roller coaster in terms of training, not running much, not doing much, but also last minute racing Saddle's 100 mile. Hi, Simon here. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my running vlog. On this channel, I share my adventure through ultra running documentary, racing 100-miler, but also providing a lot of tips video to help you get out there, inspire you to live your own adventure. Today we'll talk about my training and racing Saddle's 100 mile last weekend, but today I think we're going to do something a little bit special. There's not much to say about training, and sure, we'll talk about Saddle's 100 mile, but I felt it would be a good time to talk about the impact of running, being in nature, being in the wild, on your mental health, taking time to take care of yourself, both physically and emotionally, having time for yourself, away from stress, away from pressure of society. Being out there in the wild will not solve everything. In fact, it probably won't solve anything. But taking time of yourself, taking time of your mental health is something that can be very helpful and fruitful for the long run. Even when I'm very busy, even when I'm racing a lot, I'm still able to maintain a pretty decent workout schedule. But the past 2 weeks, along with before that, absolutely not. It's been a bit of a disaster. It happens sometimes, life happens, and I mention that pretty often, but I think it was particularly bad recently. So this week is already the third week after racing Tour des Géants, which was an amazing race. The movie is still in production. I will need a few more weeks because now I'm going to be traveling and be busy with races. So it's going to take at least 2, 3, or 4 more weeks, unfortunately. Same thing with Tour du Mont Blanc. I had expectation to publish them a little earlier, but that just will not be possible. But 3 weeks after Tour des Géants, that was the big question for the season. Tour des Géants is the greatest, biggest, most badass adventure I've ever had. I had no clue going in if I would be able to finish the race, and the consequence of that is also I had no clue how long it would take to recover. So I planned my calendar, my racing calendar accordingly, giving me a lot of time to recover after the race, but wondering, 3 weeks, maybe I'll be fine by then. And physically, I was fine. In my last episode, you probably saw, I had pretty decent training coming into this week. But this week has been pretty challenging for me, so I had to reduce training, and pretty much all week, despite it not being a recovery week and in theory not being a taper week, basically every day the most I did was just going for a short recovery walk. Just to say that I was not sitting down the whole day. It's just a lot of things happening all at once. You probably heard the saying, when it rains, it pours. And it really feels like that for both Nora and I recently. It's great that we have each other. It's great that we're able to have these adventures. But it's been a lot of both small and big things that are we need a break a little bit. Which actually leads me to the weekend. So as I mentioned at the beginning, my racing calendar is planned about a year in advance. But there are some unknowns. I don't know how recovery will go. I don't know if I will have injuries. So I leave myself some buffer. And one of the races that I've wanted to do last year and this year was Saddle's 100 mile. Saddle's 100 miles, a 100 mile in Arizona, going a huge loop around Prescott, Arizona, organized by Michael Versteeg. Good vibe kind of race, low key. He says it himself, it's not a UTMB, it's not a Western State. If that's what you're looking for, don't come for this race. And it's exactly the type of event that I enjoy myself. So I was really eager to do it. But 3 weeks after Tour des Géants, I don't know. So I signed up for it Thursday, I think midday, so less than 36 hours before actually racing the race. And I felt, look, we just need to disconnect, or we need to get in the car and just do something else. We can't be home and having to deal with all of these problems. It's not so much running away from our problem, but it's taking time for ourselves. It's getting back ownership of that time, which is also one of the reasons I started running myself when I was in consulting. And it was very challenging sometimes, a very high pressure job. Just having this outlet to release the pressure, to release the stress, and have time for myself was something that was very helpful for my mental health and just, for my sanity almost. So it felt a little bit like that. We needed sometimes a way. As you know, Nora is injured, so of course she cannot race it, but she cannot pace me. But at least she could go hiking, and that was the plan. She would go hiking around Prescott, going in the Granite Dells, seeing the really unique landscape over there. And I would be racing this race I've been thinking for a long time. Hop in the car Friday evening, drove all the way there, got there pretty late, woke up very early, signed in at 4 in the morning, and then we're ready to go. I was super tired. We had just time to pick up our bibs, and then I was like, I'm just tired. Let's get back in the car and sleep until 5 minutes before the start. And then there was Jam Jam at the start with Michael, and then he Simon was like, "Hey, like Simon, you had like quite the summer, huh?" And I was so tired. I was like, oh. And it took me a solid second to like, oh, Jam Jam, hey, oh, hey. But I was already like, I'm going to bed right now. I need to sleep right now. So I went and slept, but that's reflecting a little bit the level of energy that I had for this race. At the same time, I really came in Saddles 100 not as a I want to race that, but more as a I want time to decompress, time for myself, time for my mental health, which is one of the big reasons I run myself and I love trail running, is that when you're trail running, especially in races, you have such a good mix of meeting new people, which is stimulating and interesting. I met Captain Dave, who lived on a boat for, I think he said 25 years. You would probably not meet someone like that in your line of work. I mean, in your line of work, you would probably meet people that have pretty similar experience to yours. So it's a quite rich community, and it's very engaging to run with people like that. And the race itself, it was super hot, but when you have good company, it works great. Something I hadn't realized until we were at mile about 45 was that the 50 miler and the 100 miler all started together. So I was surprised by how many runners there were. I was like, I thought the race was much smaller than that. But then eventually we were at 50 mile and they were like, okay, good night, guys. And by then I was basically alone until the finish line. Now, not alone. Of course, there are aid stations. I would see people there. I would talk with volunteers. And at the aid station, sometimes another runner would come in or was already there, so we would interact. But when I was on the trail over a 50-mile period, I probably came across 2 or 3 people at most. So I felt isolated, but that felt like the perfect time for me to think back about everything. And that's what I want to talk about mental health and the impact it has, and the impact that running has on mental health, and kind of being able to have this pressure relief. It's hard to express it in words, but I felt that this combo was perfect for me. It's exactly what I needed. Nora was in the area, but I only saw her once during the race at actually mile 50, which was great. I was really happy to see her. I didn't know if I would see her, but then I was by myself. No pacer, no crew. And then on trail, in the dark, mostly by myself. You had such a hot day, and then all of a sudden, it's the night. You're by yourself. Everything is a little bit more quiet. Everything is a little bit more peaceful. And that gave me time to think, right? To think about where I am in my life right now. Just times for myself, being appreciative that I can actually do that over the weekend. And yes, it's been both hectic, but also there's just so many things going on. And having this time by myself gives me the opportunity to like step back a little bit and say, well, yeah, a lot of things are going wrong, but not everything is going wrong. I'm physically healthy. I can run these events. I have a wonderful wife. I have a great life overall. I mean, I have this channel. You guys are listening. That's something I value a lot. And I hope that the movies that I make are helpful. And I really appreciate all the love that is sent my way. Like, hey, Simon, like I run my first ultra marathon, my first 100 mile. Thanks for the inspiration. Thanks for the tip. Or potentially like, Simon, why did you tell me to do that? It was a terrible idea. I was in pain all the time. Now I'm bleeding out of my ass. And it's like, well, I warned you. Things will go wrong. Both in a race, you run an ultra marathon, it won't always be smooth sailing. Sometimes you will be in pain, sometimes you will be overwhelmed, and sometimes you will fall short, and it's difficult to face these things. But it will also go up and down. Sometimes you feel like crap, and then you feel better, and then you feel like crap, and then you feel better. And I think life is exactly like that. But I wanted to share that message because I think mental health is something that is really important. And sometimes, going on trail and having time by yourself, like that's sufficient. And sometimes it's not. So it's good to understand like what is kind of what I would call subclinical, like, having time for yourself can help. And when things are not improving. And we'll make a parallel again with ultra running. Sometimes you'll be in pain, but it doesn't mean you're injured. But sometimes you're in pain and you actually have an injury and you need to see a doctor. You know, your leg is broken. You do need an x-ray. You do need a cast. And I hope that you can find the same peace of mind that I find in trail running. And same thing as the week before, racing 100 miles is not solving any of the issues that were going on and everything we have to deal with right now. So you still have to deal with all of these problems comes Monday morning, but at least over the weekend, these problems did not exist. We could focus on taking care of ourselves and living life, really. But then it got back to reality, and then on top of that, at least now it was a recovery week, so it was normal that I didn't train so much, but even then I didn't put as much time as I wanted in recovery. Particularly, I couldn't sleep so much. I'm a very good sleeper, so it's not lack of capabilities of sleeping, but it's lack of opportunity or time to do so, and that's reflected also by not eating properly, not taking time for myself. So Monday, a little bit of sauna. Tuesday, went for a little walk. Wednesday, went to the gym, very short bike ride, quick sauna session. And Thursday, same thing. Although it is funny because now that I look at my Strava, I do remember running on the treadmill at some point. I wonder if I just forgot to record it. And I think there were a few more recovery walk with Nora that week that I don't see, but it was nothing meaningful. And as you can see, the last 2 weeks, except for Saddles 100, I don't remember working out so little. I'm not someone who necessarily gets antsy if I don't work out or feel stressed if I don't work out, but it is a reflection of how much time do I have for myself. And luckily, I mostly feel recovered from Saddle 100. It's dragging a little bit more than usual, but I will be ready for my next race. And my next race is actually really exciting. It's Diagonale des Fous Grand Head at Ile de la Réunion, all the way in Africa. So I'm actually flying after this recording. Really unique adventure. Unfortunately, Nora could not join, and I kind of really feel bad about that, especially with the whole episode of Tour du Mont Blanc. Honestly, if I could reschedule this race to do it next year, I definitely would right now. But I would just lose the flights right now, and it's the big expense. So I'm gonna go there, but I'm gonna miss her a lot, and it's really unfortunate because just like when I traveled for Fuji, I am gonna be working full-time remotely despite the time difference, despite preparing for a race, despite being in such an exotic location. So a little bit of bittersweet here, but all of these traveling plans were booked long in advance. Now, especially with the learning I had from Fuji, that's not something I'm gonna do in the future. That's something I'm gonna try to avoid as much as possible, because when I'm there, I would love to be able to actually enjoy being there, which means going with Nora and having time off. But at least I have one of the most exciting, one of the most gorgeous, one of the most challenging race coming up. Anyway, that's it, folks. I know it's a little bit more serious. I guess I had to fill the void of not having trained at all. But hey, I did run 100 mile. It was a pretty cool race. If you appreciate this video, if you appreciate this transparency, please leave a thumbs up. And I'm curious to hear in the comments below, what is the impact that you can see yourself as to trail running and your mental health or your ability to go through rougher patch in life? As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.